What's up guys? Welcome to AnimeKouhai, an extension of Anime Senpai PH channel. All pieces of information are derived from the light novel. In today's video, we will start Chapter 6 Volume 7 of the light novel, entitled Gods and Demon Lords. This video is the first part of Chapter 6 in our Tensura spoiler video series. If you haven't watched the previous episodes, feel free to check out the links in the description below. Now, let's get to the video. The battle was over, but the problem hadn't been solved. As Rimuru attempted to declare victory over Hinata, he spotted something out the corner of his eye. Hinata noticed it too, and turned toward it. Up ahead, coming their way was a large sword. Raphael Sensei revealed that thought interference and magical instability had been detected on target and that it would explode soon. The target was the great sword itself. Rimuru wondered if it was an attack aimed at them, given that someone was interfering with it. Standing in front of Rimuru, Hinata screamed out that these were the depths 7 days would sink to. Rimuru was still immobile, and then the promised explosion. And then Rimuru could see Hinata's body slowly crumple. In the land of eternal night, within a burial chamber unknown to the world, encased in a casket of ice, there was a beautiful, dark-haired naked girl. A figure was in front of her, also nude, as she embraced the casket with an eerie smile on her spellbound face. Her skin, as pale as the white-hot sun, burned a shade of red as she said to herself with a satisfied sigh that the naked girl in the coffin was so beautiful. Beholding this girl in the casket and showering her with love was the secret delight of this charming silver-haired figure. Her red and blue eyes flickered as they let out their ominous glow. They brought out her traditional beauty and enhanced it to another level. But what struck any observer of her the most were the two prominent white canines jutting out from both sides of her lips. Whenever she opened those lips, her blood-red tongue and milky white fangs would bare themselves. This was the Demon Lord Luminous Valentine, Queen of Nightmares and Ruler of the Night. Whenever she touched this casket, it left a burn-like mark on her beautiful skin. It was an arc, a pure block of holy force, and thus damaging to Luminous. As a vampiric demon lord, this whole casket was like poison to her, but she didn't let it bother her. Even the bruising was bliss itself. Even a demon lord with Luminous' powers was incapable of breaking the casket, so instead, she lovingly caressed it and hoped for the day when she would finally be able to release the girl sleeping inside. One of her trusted associates made contact with her. He said he apologized for interrupting her fun, but there was something he wished to inform her of. It was Louie, the one she had enlisted to be Holy Emperor of the Belus. Though the sound of his voice annoyed her, Luminous put up with it, because it was rare for him to speak up like this, and she could easily imagine it being an emergency. Luminous asked him if something happened. Louie responded that Hinata had moved to defeat Rimuru, the root of all this evil, and he had tacitly allowed her to do so. But things had apparently grown complicated. Louie gave her the truth, as revealed by his own investigations. With a weary sigh, Luminous removed herself from the casket, left the burial chamber and called for a servant named Gunther. Gunther was an elderly vampire in Luminous' service, a butler who had joined her at Walpurgis. Now Gunther emerged from the darkness, one of the 3 servants under her control and almost on her level of power. Louie was her point man on the Emperor's throne, Gunther within the city of Night Garden, and the late Roy her stand-in Demon Lord as a deterrent against outside propaganda. All 3 were also Luminous' bodyguards. Luminous was currently in a burial chamber situated deep inside Night Garden, and Gunther was keeping watch over her nearby. Gunther assisted Luminous with her clothing. The fact that she preferred the ceremony of manually putting on her outfit over some instant magical transformation was a telling indicator of her form over function tastes. Gunther griped that Louie was bothering Luminous with such trivial nonsense. Louie replied with apologies and insisted that, if they left things be for much longer, they ran the risk of losing her beloved Hinata as well. Gunther said that those were silly concerns. If it was a Demon Lord Rimuru she crossed swords with, prudence would certainly be in order, Gunther added. Louie came to both Luminous and Gunther because he didn't want Hinata and Rimuru to cross swords. He was worried about Luminous if Hinata got killed. But Luminous grudgingly interrupted and told Louie and Gunther that was enough from them. She added that a single appearance from her was all this needed. The three servants hated it when one of them horned in on the territory of another, which was a source of frustration for Luminous. Louis knew that, which was why he deferred to Gunther this time. The two of them bowed their heads meekly, but Luminous gave them a snort. With Roygun, she would need to juggle their assignments. Right now though, Luminous didn't have time for it, so she just asked both of them to follow her. Luminous began to walk, in all her solemn majesty, and the two Magicborn were ready to follow her. Then Luminous stopped for a moment and turned back toward the casket her beloved slept within. She told her to wait for her. Luminous then whispered the name of the precious girl inside, before grimly caressing the chamber's door and closing it behind her. Soundlessly shut away by Luminous's massive magic barrier, the chamber slipped down into true darkness. Damrada the Gold, one of the leaders of the Cerberus secret society, had finally made it back to FALMUTH from his clandestine meeting with the five elders. Damrada was now in Megam, out in the countryside, and given how well he knew the money-hungry Earl Nidal of Megam, he hadn't forgotten to placate him with enough presents to earn his trust. This time as well, a little bribe was all Damrada needed to allow a protege of his to reside within Megam. Edmure too was there now in an undisclosed location, and Damrada knew that this domain would become the eye of the storm before long. He knew as well that Edward, the new king, had dragged a force of 20,000 toward this domain's borders. Damrada spreading the word that the hero Yom was keeping the old king Edmure safe was enough to convince Edward that the two were conspiring against him. Edward had made it very clear that there was no need for the new administration to honor that armistice. After all, it was unilaterally signed by Edmure, and as Edward told his people that he had attempted to reason sincerely with them, only to have Edmure and Yom raid their loyal coffers and steal away their money. The pharmacist's urban dwellers, far removed from the borderlands, a hero incapable of anything except combat, wasn't that worthy of their appreciation. Being so safe in their cities, after all, made them underestimate the need for such stout defense. Some even questioned the need to keep people like Yom and his force fed on the public dime. It was funny to see how such a large swath of people failed to realize that safety came at a price. In the midst of this, the announcement that the hero Yom and the old king Edmure had embezzled the reparation funds infuriated pharmacist's upper class. More and more of them volunteered their support for Edward, and nobody doubted his moral superiority on this question. And with that egging him on, Edward had deployed his troops. If current trends continue, it wouldn't be long before Yom and Edmure were arrested, on trumped-up charges and executed. And just as Damrada drew it up, they wouldn't be willing to accept that, of course, which meant war was on the horizon. Yom had only about 5,000 troops here in Megam, but they had been taking in reinforcements for the past 3 days. It was terribly naive of Rimuru to have not abandoned Yom after all. Now Hinata, the Enlightened, had a better chance of victory than ever before. Perhaps now was the time to move. This too was within Damrada's realm of imagination. On a wholly personal level, he would love it if Hinata could be taken out of the picture for good. It was likely that she knew she had been taken advantage of by her lies, so it was best to eliminate Hinata before she got in the way. Damrada doubted she'd ever forgive him for it, and he needed to keep that in mind during his operations in the Western nations. For now though, Damrada would have to leave Hinata in the hands of the five elders. Any more direct intervention with her would be too dangerous. In his mind, it was unlikely that this mission would end in failure. The leader of Cerberus ordered him to trigger a war in this region, nothing else. As far as Damrada was concerned, his job was already done, so it'd be a smarter bet to pull out before Hinata got back. But there was just a bit of unfinished business left. Damrada didn't care who won between the hero and the new king, but if he wanted to secure future profits, he had a promise with the five elders to fulfill. The demon had to be killed. This, however, was where his plans began to go awry. Earl Nidal Megam had tipped Damrada off on an internal meeting held in his domain. And judging by the report, this demon was aiming for a quick end to this battle as well. To Damrada, it meant that the new king and the demon wanted two completely different things for FALMUTH. Edward had no intention of hostilities against Rimuru. The monster forces clearly outclassed his, and there was no way FALMUTH could beat Tempest alone. But despite that, Rimuru had still sent reinforcements to the Hiroyom. That indicated to Damarda that Rimuru wasn't afraid of war, should it come to that. All that talk about a just cause was turned on its side the moment the Demon Lord sided with Edmaris. It seemed that Damarda had changed his mind. This gave him some concern. In the midst of his investigations as he sought the demon, Damarda had come to learn that the magic-born Raisin was now serving the demon he was trying to kill. He was wondering if that demon who defeated Raisin was Rimuru himself. But this was no Johnny-come-lately demon-given physical form on this world. Damarda wasn't sure, but he had his suspicion that an older demon might have been revived. The thought made Damarda grimace. There wasn't enough intelligence to work with. Not even the CERBERUS leader provided any information about the demon. This adversary, Damarda reasoned, would have to be considered at least an early modern archdemon or possibly older. The strength of this type of demon depended greatly on their age, and while modern ones were one thing, early modern archdemons, 200 or 300 years old, were a calamity-class threat. A medieval one, pushing nearly a millennium in age, could be powerful enough to serve as a Demon Lord's aid. It was a completely different level of strength from some lower-level evolved demon. If an archdemon like that was in this world, it was a devastating news, a threat to humankind as an ongoing concern. It was worth noting that human beings had only successfully summoned demons up to the medieval level of age. That was as far as the records showed, and it made sense, because anything more powerful than that would mean the end of the summoners' souls. They would be immediately consumed. That was why the Eastern Empire's latest research regularly called for limitations on demon summoning, although it took a hero-class summoner to make an archdemon do their bidding in the first place. Damarda murmured that Raisin's name was known far and wide across the Empire. Power like his was easily the match for a medieval-aged demon. If there was a demon out there who could defeat the likes of him, that demon must be stronger than a medieval-aged demon. In addition, the five elders seemed to be fairly blatantly scheming with one another. That piqued Damarda's curiosity a bit as well, but his instincts told him this was one wasp's nest he was better off not prodding. He thought that it was best to make good his escape before he was caught up in anything else. Responding to the words Damarda spoke to himself, his servant asked Damarda if something was the matter. Damarda weakly smiled back and said that this was too hot to touch and no more of this. They had word to lie low for now, and he would consider it wise to heed that advice. Damarda stressed to his servants that they were retreating, and gave him instruction to leave 2 or so observers behind, and order everyone else to leave the nation. Damarda told his servant that he would extend his formal greetings to King Edward, and then pay a visit to Tempest. For now, Damarda would cease his behind-the-scenes maneuvering in favor of other advances. There was no law against a proper merchant requesting an audience with the Demon Lord Rimuru. After all, in order to improve his business. The servant asked Damarda what they should do with the 6 contractors they had brought over from their homeland. Damarda said that they would bring them to the new king, and they would be a fine souvenir for him. He added that though it would be all pushed on King Edward's shoulders, it would be a favor to the king, and all while Damarda fulfilled his promise to the 5 elders. These contractors were an Eastern Empire organization that served roughly the same purpose as the Western Nations Free Guild. They were a group that assigned work to specialist professions, including demon hunters who worked full-time pursuing the demons of the realm. Only the best, most experienced monster fighters would be granted a license for this profession. And Damarda had paid a princely sum to bring 6 of these demon hunters with him. He had hoped to use them as advertising for contractors at large. But now Damarda sensed that things were too dangerous even for them. But his servants still had doubts as to whether they really needed to be on their guard this much, because they hadn't fully made back their investment yet. Damarda responded by saying that they would see. He might be overthinking it, but he liked to trust in his instincts. He was also not enough of a fool to lose his life when he should have been cutting his losses. The servant finally asked for apologies for doubting Damarda, and told him that he would begin preparing for the retreat. Damrada responded that was good, and he would prepare another present for the new king. The servant left the room. Preparations went quickly after that, and before much longer, Damrada had put Migam behind him. He was right to do so, because if he had dawdled any further, Damrada might have an angered demon trying to kill him. That's it for this video, guys. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe and click the bell notification icon so you will never miss the upcoming continuation of Tensura spoiler video series. Thank you for always watching my videos and supporting my channel. Shout out to the top 10 commenters on my previous video. Shout out to Peanut, Sultan J, John Lester, Jamie Ira, Joji Ray, Rimru Whitey, Muhammad Al-Wahaibi, Turbs, Ban Undead, and last but not the least, shout out to Zane Sarmiento. I'll see you guys in the next video.